Hello and welcome to this 39th episode of the Denver Homes Market Report. This is Ricky Schoonover with Mode Real Estate. I sure hope your holiday season is going as well as it can be during these crazy times. This year has been one for the history books for sure. 2020, I think I can speak for just about everyone. Good riddance. Let's get past this year and into 2021. So today is Christmas Eve. I hope you are all staying local, not gathering in any large groups, and keeping yourselves and your loved ones as safe as possible. On that note, my younger brother and his girlfriend were supposed to come pay us a visit. However, we just recently found out his girlfriend's mom, whom they both live with, had contracted COVID. She works in a nursing home care facility, so she was probably exposed quite a lot through her work throughout this entire pandemic. And now with the holidays upon us, it's such a bummer that we cannot see them and for her. We hope to get an update today on how she's doing. Hopefully she is now on the road to recovery from this incredibly transmittable virus. This made me think of just how easy it is for this virus to spread. Think about it. Here we were, planning for them both to come over for the holiday. They live just 10 minutes away. Now, we only have me, my husband, and one other friend who were planning to get together for the holiday. But if my little brother or his girlfriend unknowingly had the virus, there are 3 potential cases just in our little circle. Imagine families where 10 or 15 people are planning to get together. When we are with close friends or with family, we absolutely have a tendency to let our guard down, even just a bit. We trust that they feel okay and they've been taking precautions and that we're family, so it's safer. But this virus can spread like wildfire. So if you're planning on being with even just a few friends or family members, please keep this in mind. Yes, you love them and they trust and love you, but this virus may be lurking inside someone who has no idea they've even been exposed, much less infected. So please, follow all the guidelines which have been set forth, even with family and close friends. The vaccines are here. They are being distributed for the most vulnerable, to the workers on the front lines of the health crisis, and eventually to others like you and I. However, we have over 330 million people in this country. It's going to take a while for us to get that double dose of vaccines that we all need in order to tackle this thing. So, if you have not come down with COVID to this point, consider yourself lucky and do everything you can to stay safe, and let's get these vaccines out as efficiently as possible. Okay, quite enough on that subject. Today is the 24th of December, 2020. Next week will be our 40th episode of the Denver Homes Market Report and New Year's Eve. The following week, we'll do a huge show. I will look not just into December 2020 versus 2019. We'll pull those numbers too. But what I'm really excited about is this is my very first annual review, where we'll pull all the numbers from 2020 and compare to just how the real estate market did this past year compared to the entire year of 2019. So that'll give you something to look forward to on our New Year's show and our first ever annual review episode, which will come out Thursday, January 7th. So mark your calendars, and in fact, just subscribe already. That way, you will always be alerted when my new podcast comes out each and every Thursday before 5 p.m. Whether you listen to your podcasts on Google, Apple, TuneIn, Spotify, or even just by asking your smart speaker, please play my podcast, the Denver Homes Market Report. That will get you connected to my show each Thursday. This past couple weeks have been a bit crazy. I listed my client's townhouse, and within that first weekend, we received an offer, and it went pending in just 4 days. And once we got through home inspection, he and I went out and found his new home. We offered on one home. There was just one offer on the table on Saturday. By Monday, that same house had 13 offers. We didn't win that one. We did pretty well. We were the top 2 out of 13. But we went out the next day, found his home, and got an accepted offer. Home inspections this Saturday, with fingers crossed that it all checks out. So I had this question comes up a few times recently, and I want to explain these various terms to you. My nephew, he lives in South Carolina. He texted me the other day. And then last month, I had a client ask me the same question. What does pending mean? And how does that differ from quote unquote under contract? I've been in real estate dating back to 2003. I've been licensed in 3 different states, and I've bought and sold homes in at least 5 different states. So the terms change depending on where you live. But when you see quote unquote active under contract, or simply under contract, or in escrow, or pending, all these terms mean pretty much the same thing. Here in Denver area, we most often use under contract, but I've also seen pending as well. Bottom line, if you see any of these terms associated with a house for sale, it means that on that particular home, the buyer had offered the home for sale, the seller had offered the home for sale, an interested buyer submitted an offer, and an offer is a contract. It's a legal contract between both the buyer and the seller. And that contract, there are usually a number of milestones which need to be met before we can close. These milestones are called contingencies. There are many different contingencies which could be in any given offer. It could be something as simple as giving the buyer time to hire a home inspector and to do the home inspection. Or it could be giving time to allow for an appraisal to be completed. Or perhaps the sellers have a contingency on that contract that they can only close if they themselves are able to find and close on another home. Or that the buyer is actually selling their current home and needs money from the current home in order to have the funds available to buy that new home. So all these above are all contingencies within an offer. However, most often, if you see something to the effect of house is contingent accepting backups, what that means is you can still offer on that home. However, there is already a contract in place with a buyer and the seller. And most often, when you see this, it means the person or persons who are trying to buy that home are also trying to sell their current home. I can tell you, it's pretty important when you're working with a seller that if you are going to accept an offer, any offer, you had better do your homework and have a really good feeling about that offer going through and onto the closing table. Especially, this is true if that buyer is also trying to sell their current home. Now, I'm not saying you can't sell and buy your new home at the same time, but you had better be very committed to these transactions if you even stand a chance of your offer being accepted. Let me use an example here. Say you own your own home. You've lived there for a number of years, and now you're in this particular situation. Yes, Patty, I'm talking to you. See, Patty owns a townhouse. She knows it's no longer the right fit for her. She wants to buy a house with a yard and with less stairs. However, her townhouse also needs a little bit of updating in order to maximize her fair market value. I know she wants to sell her townhouse. However, she really wants to go out and find her new house first, so she knows where she's going to be moving once she lists her townhouse. And, the market just moves way too fast for that to actually work. So, when Patty is really ready, we'll first commit to these first few steps. First and foremost, get her home ready for market. I have an entire team who can do any number of remodeling or updates to her townhouse, whatever she might need. Once we get the home listed and for sale, we find a buyer who is willing to put in an offer, knowing full well that Patty will still need to go out and find another home as her replacement. So we accept this buyer's offer. Now it's time for Patty to go find her new house, right? Well, in this market, good luck. There is a very slim chance you would find a seller willing to accept Patty's offer at this stage in the game. Patty is going to likely have to wait until first her buyer goes through their home inspection, her and the buyer agree on the repairs. Once that step is complete, Patty and her buyer are now been in contract on the townhouse for about a week, maybe even like 10 days at this point. So Patty's chances are much better that we can now go out and look at houses in person. Hopefully, within this very tight window, the right house comes along. Now, when Patty and I submit her offer, I can explain to the seller's broker that yes, Patty does need to complete the sale of her townhouse. However, we are already under contract with her buyer. The buyer has already inspected the townhouse and is through their due diligence period, and Patty has already agreed to fix the few items which came up in the inspection report. So at this point, really, we have 3 major milestones left in Patty's home. First, the appraisal on the townhouse needs to come in, but we have strong comps, and we feel good about the appraisal. Then final loan approval for her buyer. But her buyer is also strong, and we see no issues with the buyer obtaining final loan approval. And then 3, finally, Patty needs to find her house and start working towards closing on her new home. So in this situation, and especially in this very competitive market, Patty is still in an uphill battle to buy her new home and get that offer accepted. If the home she wants to buy has other offers, maybe there are other buyers who also want to buy the same home that Patty loves. Maybe those buyers don't have another house to sell. Or maybe Patty is up against other buyers who are offering all cash. The last thing I want to do when I'm representing the sale of a client's home is have my sellers accept an offer and then that offer fall through. You can't always know for sure, but there's a good deal of research which goes into evaluating the pros and cons of each offer and then presenting the offer along with all that research to my sellers. I want them to be as confident as they possibly can that the offer they ultimately accept has a high probability of getting to the closing table. And sometimes the offer of the highest price is not the best offer to accept. If you fall out of contract and your house comes back on the market, it's not the end of the world, but it does create this situation where now every buyer moving forward asks, what's wrong with the house? Why did it fall out of contract? Sometimes it's buyer financing. Sometimes the buyer just decides they offered too quickly and realized they don't really like the neighborhood. Or it could be something that came up in inspection and the buyer and seller could not agree on their repairs. There are any number of reasons. But bottom line, it now becomes part of the conversation when you really want to focus on accepting a good offer and getting the home sold for your clients with the first offer you accept. Okay, well, with it being Christmas Eve and all, we are going to close out today's show. If you have a few days off, good for you. I hope you enjoy and stay safe. If you're like me, you'll be working this weekend, and if so, also stay safe. If you have some downtime cruising through lists of homes currently available for sale, that can always be fun. Be sure to go check out my website, denverhomesmarket.com. See all the homes available in there. Other than that, I hope you'll tune in next week for my New Year's Eve special. Once again, this is Ricky.schoonover of Mode Real Estate, wishing you and yours a safe and happy holiday.